But I think we all, as entrepreneurs, you know, that's always we're always in that growth factor.
Yeah, for sure. And has this book influenced your ability to find your why?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I will say this, I'm scratching my head at this point in the reading, because it's like, oh, so if you're a one-person band as an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, you have to know your why, but then you also have to know how.
Yes, you do. And why? That's the trouble. If you're the only person in it, you need to wear all the hats.
Right. Exactly.
We've all experienced that one.
Definitely.
Good morning, Yanni. To have you with us. I see you're muted, so I'm guessing you're driving or something.
I know, I'm just getting home. Taking a break.
Okay. So we won't ask you to comment until you let us know you're ready to then. All right. So once again, we are here to discuss Start With Why. And in this case, we're going to cover the last few chapters. Jane, I think you were absent last week, I think.
I was.
We're covering the last part because I'm flying out to Bali on Tuesday, and I wasn't 100% sure I'll be able to host the next meeting. So what I thought I would do is we'll decide on a book for after that, and I'm away for 2 weeks, and then that gives everyone a chance to get the book and get started. And
oh, nice.
Back in 3 weeks.
Very nice.
So we have Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action by Simon Sinek. And we're up to part 5. The biggest challenge is success. So we're now on chapter 11, about when the why goes fuzzy. So we had this interesting thing, just to quickly recap. I'm not going to go back through the whole book because we've covered it over the last few weeks. But he talks a lot about some of the prime examples of people who have a powerful sense of why they exist and what a difference it's made to their ability to communicate and to lead. And he talked about the difference between leadership and leading, as in a leader can be a leader by having the title of leader, but the true leaders are the ones who inspire people, and they do that through communicating the vision that is then shared by the employees of the business. So if you're a one-person band, like Jane just mentioned, then you've got to believe it because you're the only one there. But if you have people working with you, it's your job to communicate that vision to them and get them all on the same page, as we say, speaking the same language and thinking the same way about what it is that you're actually trying to achieve, why your business even exists in the first place. So he uses a lot of examples of people like Apple and Sam Walton from Walmart, who started Walmart. People like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. And he talked about this thing called the Celery Test. Can anyone remember what the Celery Test was?
Is that where you buy just the essential stuff, like celery?
Yeah, I think he was talking in an earlier chapter about health food and eating the right things. And if you go buying all the stuff that's not good for you, you know, it's full of sugar and not genuine, not raw food, but full of processed foods and so on, then it would fail what he calls the celery test. So if you're buying stuff that's genuinely healthy and good for you, somebody, the example was in the grocery store, someone says, oh, you've got to get into buying this celery. Celery is really good for you. So if you can stick to what you know is healthy, in other words, in a business sense, if you can, the celery test is, it does what you're doing fit with your reason why you exist? Does it fit with your beliefs? So if you want a piece of chocolate cake, that's okay, but you know full well that the chocolate cake is a short-term decision that doesn't fit with your beliefs. So that it's okay to sort of go outside the boundaries, but as long as you know you haven't lost sight of your why. Yeah, so the chocolate cake is a short-term decision that doesn't fit with your beliefs, but it's okay to still have the occasional piece of chocolate cake, but it would fail the celery test unless you bear in mind that you know that you're doing it for the short-term sugar fix, and therefore you are keeping on track with your beliefs and your values. Does that sort of sum it up, Stan, as best you remember it?
As best I can remember it.
Yeah, it was actually in the previous chapter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But how would you use that in business?
Okay, good question. Good question, Jane. Well, I think it starts with, do you have a clear understanding of why your business exists? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And if you don't, then there is a companion book called Finding Your Why that you can go on to. It helps you with that, because he does say somewhere in here that it's not something you kind of invent, it's something you discover. I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember. We'll come to the exact quote when I find it as we go through this. But a lot of people are fuzzy about their why to start with. Especially, I think, when you are a one-person band, because there is that sense of, I need to do something to earn a living. You know, I've got to pay the bills. So it starts off quite often being about finding work that fits with our skill set. But we were talking about this the other week, you know, with regards to my cleaning business. Sometimes it's hard to get excited about what you're doing if it's there to serve a purpose, which is to pay the bills. But if it's something more, if you can find something deeper within that, where you have more of a cause, where it turns into more of a cause, or you have a meaning behind it, other than just to pay the bills, you don't want to be just focused on the money. So for me, it was always about service, and it was much clearer when I was in tourism and I had my backpackers hostel, because for me, I came out of the corporate world and went into something that I saw as more of a lifestyle, where I had an opportunity to create a great atmosphere and create an environment where people could just be themselves and could have a great time together. And so that sense of creating an experience for my customers was definitely my reason why. It became, I didn't really care enough, but I didn't care enough about the money, probably, but I didn't care about the money to start with, in the sense that my attitude was, if we create a great experience for our customers, they'll keep coming back and they'll tell other people to come and join us as well. And along the way, if we are successful at doing that, then money will follow anyway. We don't need to worry about the money, because we just take care of the prime mission, which is to make sure everyone's having a great experience. So it was simpler in something like that, where we're providing a service that inspired people. And we had that. We had people felt like they joined a global community and still stayed in contact even after they'd left the building. I'm still in contact with some of those people today, you know, 10 years after I closed the business, or got out of the business, sold it actually. Sorry, 12 years after, because it closed down 2 years ago. And interestingly, the guy who took it over didn't care at all about the customers or the staff. He was only in it for the money. And then, and then it closed down. So it was my example of what he talks about in this book, is that when it's all about just the money, you're not building something that's going to last. You're building something serving a short-term purpose, and that would be like eating the chocolate cake. The celery test would be, were you achieving something that inspired people in some way? Well, that's my understanding of it anyway. So he then says that, so we come to part 5, the biggest challenge is success. And so a lot of people may start out with a clear understanding or a good sense of why they've gone into business, why they've set out to achieve something. He used the example of Sam Walton in Walmart, who was a guy who came of age during the Great Depression. So he had a sense of frugality to start with. So he wanted to make things affordable for people. He wanted his customers to be able to buy the things that they wanted, but at a really reasonable price. He wanted to look after the people. And he also believed in looking after his staff as well. And his attitude was that he believed that if he looked after people, people would look after him. And he summed it up by saying, we're all working together. That's the secret. So in other words, he united people behind this common cause of wanting to make things affordable, wanting to serve the community, to serve employees, and to serve customers. So service was the higher cause, which I think is what I've taken through. Well, I've gone in a different industry from my tourism days into the service industry, which is cleaning apartment buildings at the moment. What we are doing there is providing great service. We're providing great communication. We're providing an ideal opportunity for the staff to work in a manner that fits in with their lifestyle. That's why I've predominantly employed students, because they can fit it in around their studies. And a good example, a Brazilian couple who are just starting with me, started with me 2 weeks ago and then got COVID, so they're starting with me today now. But they actually thanked me for the opportunity, because they could see that what we'd created was a work environment where it's flexible, where they can do a good job. There's a good communication system, and they know what's expected of them, and they can actually see an end result of the work that they're doing. They go in with a building that's in a mess, and when they leave, it's in a better state, which is creating a nicer environment for the people who live there. So there's that sense of we're serving our community of residents that live in these apartment buildings, and we're serving our staff by giving them great opportunity. And so service is the sort of prime motivating force that's come through from my philosophy from my previous businesses. So, and same with my coaching work, it's about empowering the people, or helping the people to be the best versions of themselves so they can achieve their potential. So the sort of a common thread is still there, I think. And so with Sam Walmart, he was the leader who inspired people, because he had that vision, and he had that those values, a sense of decency, a sense of looking after people, of caring about people. And then when he died, it became about the money. It became about the bottom line. And so where people used to campaign to have a Walmart store installed in their area or their town, now there's people actively fighting against having a Walmart store in their town, because they have that sort of reputation of it's being all about the money, about their bottom line. And they've lost that. They're ruthless with their suppliers, with their distribution network, and they'll undercut people, and they'll enforce difficult trading terms on people. And so they've slowly but steadily kind of lost connection with Sam Walton's original why. for want of a better word. So he had a lot of beliefs. You know, he said, celebrate your successes and find some humor in your failures. Don't take yourself so seriously. Loosen up, and everybody around you will loosen up. And instead of admitting that things aren't what they used to be, Walmart has done the opposite. They've tried to make statements about how they're going to help community and things like this, and people don't believe it anymore, because people want to believe what you believe, but they'll believe what they show, what you demonstrate, what you show them that you believe. And so, even though they're still a huge company and it's a huge chain, well established, he says that their why went fuzzy. So it's not all about Walmart. That was just one example. But he's saying it's clear that the Walmart of today is not the Walmart that Sam Walton originally built. And we saw the same thing happen with Apple. When Steve Jobs was at the helm, you know, there was that clear connection with being the institution that challenged the institution. They were the company that empowered the creative people and the dreamers to think differently and to think outside the box, and to all their products reflected that sense of, we're innovators, we're doing what the customer wants, not what the previous giants in the market have always done. But when Steve Jobs left the company, it went into a bit of a fall for a while, because it started to lose connection with that why. When he came back again, he reestablished it, and you saw the impact of what happened then, where they really completely transformed the music industry. We were talking about that in a session last week, with the competition being the Zen Creative, and how they were marketing all around what the product is, but no one cares what the product is. What they care is what it can do for you. So when they were talking about how many megabytes it could do and what the memory capacity was and blah, 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 people were like, yawn, I don't understand what you're talking about. What's all that about? And Steve Jobs came along and said, well, we'll put 1,000 songs in your pocket with the iPod. So just simple things like that. And yeah, so it's when the executives or chief executives of the company, or the leaders of the company, have a clear sense of why they exist and what they're trying to achieve for their customers, for their employees, even for their suppliers, the way that they want to operate. He goes on to say there's a definition, or there's a distinction. It's a good Russ word, isn't it? You've ever been on any of Russ Devan's masterminds? He talks about distinctions. Distinction between achievement and success. So achievement is something you reach or attain, like a goal, and it's tangible, it's clearly defined and measurable, whereas success, in contrast, is a feeling or a state of being. So you could feel successful and even be successful, but have it not necessarily yet reflect in the bottom line. You could be on the right track. And if I go back to my previous example, when I was running my backpacker business, I didn't even really, I focused more on creating that experience and increasing the number of people who were there who could enjoy that experience. And as I did that, the occupancy level went up, the amount of fun we were all having went up, and the money came in with it anyway. It wasn't the primary focus to just get more money. So that's the thing. As he sums it up in this, Simon, he says, in my vernacular, achievement comes when you pursue and attain what you want. Success comes when you are clear in pursuit of why you want it. And I think we also have to bear in mind why we want it, as in the sense of what is achieving the success going to do for us as the business owner, rather than just hitting a figure or hitting a target. It's Why is that important? What will it mean for your family? What will it mean for people that you may be able to help because you've got more money? What will it mean in terms of what you can do for your community? So those sorts of things, I think, help give you more of that sense of the feeling rather than just ticking the box or hitting the sales figure. I love this quote. I highlighted this one. A wise man once said, "Money can't buy happiness, but it pays for the yacht to pull alongside it." The yacht represents achievement, and it is easily seen and with the right plan completely attainable. The thing we pull alongside represents that hard to define feeling of success. Obviously, this is much harder to see and attain. They are distinct concepts, and sometimes they go together and sometimes they don't. More importantly, while some people, while they are in pursuit of success, simply mistake what they achieve as the final destination. This is the reason they never feel satisfied, no matter how big their yacht is, no matter how much they achieve. The false assumption we often make is that if we simply achieve more, the feeling of success will follow, but it rarely does. Isn't that powerful? How many people you know who think they've done it all? They've achieved the pinnacle of success because they've got, the big house or the big business, the cars, the yachts, all the toys, and they're still not happy. There's something missing inside, that sense of value, I suppose, that sense of having inspired people or done something that's meaningful. So as he puts it, for great leaders, the golden circle is in balance. They are in pursuit of why they hold themselves accountable to how they do it, and what they do serves as the tangible proof of what they believe. So just repeat that. They're in pursuit of why. They are in pursuit of why. They hold themselves accountable to how they do it, and what they do serves as the tangible proof of what they believe. But most of us tend to fall out of balance when our why and our what are not aligned. And it's the separation of the tangible and the intangible that marks what he calls the split. So I think that's a great analogy, that example of the yacht pulling alongside. The yacht is the attainable thing that we can see. That's the measurable outcome of our efforts. But the why is the thing we pull alongside. That's that greater sense of achieving something. And that's where, with a lot of these great people, it's not really about the money. It's about what they're trying to build. It's usually a sense of building something. The money's just the way of keeping score, if you like, of trying to measure whether they did it or not. So, and if you want to get biblical, if you go back to that famous, often misquoted line, you know the one I mean? That the love of the money is the root of all evil, but it's actually the love of money is the root of all evil. So it's when it's not the money itself, because that's just the exchange. That's just the measurement of exchange of service. But so loving money for the sake of money is where it all starts to go wrong. So having that greater sense of purpose, the money will come anyway. If you achieve something that truly inspires people and serves the community in some way, generally that's through product or service. When you serve people, you'll get the results anyway in monetary terms. Unless, of course, you don't have any organizational skills and you don't put structures in place. So you have to always put that kind of disclaimer in there as well. People do quite often make a lot of money and then it all goes out the other end as well and they lose it all. because they didn't have the right structures or the right skill sets, or they didn't surround themselves with people who could fill the gaps of what, you know, what their weaknesses were. You want other people who've got strengths in the areas that you're weak in. So that's a whole other topic. But this is a sort of defining thing, is this connection with your why. And when that connection goes fuzzy, as he puts it, that's when things can start to unravel. How are we feeling? Does it all make sense, what I've just been saying so far, or does anyone get a different interpretation at all out of that?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Okay, good. We'll go on to chapter 12, which is Split Happens. Which is that nearly every company or organization starts the same way, with an idea or a concept. And at the beginning, ideas are often fueled with passion. It's funny, I went to a workshop, a business workshop with the local Chamber of Commerce the other day, and it was a workshop all about explaining what government grants were available for small business. A lady who specializes in helping people get grants. But it was funny because there was this two ladies that were in the audience. At the start, everyone had to sort of introduce themselves and say what they did, what their business was, and you know, if they'd got any experience with grants. But these two ladies, they were sitting there almost giggling with each other, with, you know, all excitable. And you know, when it came to their turn to introduce themselves, it was almost, oh, should we tell people this secret or not? Well, we've come up with a new product. And then the lady running the course said, am I allowed to ask what it is? Can you share that? Or is that still top secret, you know? And they were like, oh, yes, we'll tell people. And it was, it still makes me laugh. They were both cyclists, and they found that there was a product in the cycling market or there was a number of products that were very much male dominated, because cycling had been a male dominated sport. And these were two women who wanted to make it as, you know, equal terms for the ladies. And so they had this anti-chafing cream, and the male equivalent that was already on the market was called butt cream. So they were coming up with a more female oriented product that, you know, they were trying to invent new things that would fit the female market and be packaged and worded according to the female market, and less kind of male dominated. So they were giggling away, but you could just sense this excitement coming from this passion for this new idea that they'd got, how they were going to change cycling as an experience for women with their new version of butt cream.
Oh, that's funny.
So yes, I had a good laugh at that one. But it was, yeah, it was this passion that reminded me of them when he talks about passion and ideas at the beginning. When you start in business, it's so exciting, isn't it? You've got this new idea, this new thing you want to do, and you're convinced it's going to work, and you're going to change the world in some way, or at least your section of it. So they're going to change women's worlds with butt cream. Okay. And there is that sense of people, when you first start out, relying on your gut, on your instincts, and just, you know, because you don't know what you don't know. So you just go plowing on anyway, because you're going to make it happen no matter what, you know. And like he says, the reason so many small businesses fail is because passion alone can't cut it. For passion to survive, it needs structure. That's just what I was saying before on the previous chapter, wasn't it? I'll just highlight that bit. That's why people need coaches, you see, to give them structure and give them some of the ways of doing things and ways of looking at things that might be different to how they had, or maybe they haven't even thought about it, but maybe they're thinking about it wrong. So he talks about how people can lose that sense of a why without the hows, and passion without structure has a very high probability of failure. Passion may need structure to survive, but for structure to grow, it needs passion. So there is the twist. I don't know why I missed highlighting that one. I think I need to highlight that one. Passion may need structure to survive, but for structure to grow, it needs passion. In other words, where does the passion come from? It comes from the why. Are you passionate about what you do, or are you just going through the motions?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he said, when business stops focusing on why they started in the first place, this is the kind of thing that's happened with people like Walmart. That was a company that was obsessed with serving the community, and instead it became obsessed with achieving its goals. So when you put a bean counter in charge of a company, it starts being about the money. And I think a great example of that in sport recently, my soccer team, Manchester United, they put a guy in charge. They had one of the greatest leaders of all time in Alex Ferguson, who's the manager. He achieved everything, but instilled a whole sense of philosophy in the club. And then they put a new guy in charge as CEO who was an accountant, and no knowledge of football, no interest in football, but was brilliant commercially at getting sponsorship deals and all that sort of thing. And the club completely lost its way, and it, just wasn't winning any trophies or anything. And it's just gone down a steady decline for the last 7 years now. 9 years since our great leader retired. And now it's finally that dawned on them that they've been making a lot of bad decisions. And the guy at the top, the chief executive, has now been replaced with someone who's got more football knowledge and more passion for the game. And now they're going back to, well, what does this mean for our fans? Because they've neglected the fans so badly. The fans were having protests and well, still are making protests about the way that the club is being run. So there's an example in the sporting world. But as we all know now, sports have become businesses. Sports clubs have become, major money spinners for greedy shareholders. So the single greatest challenge any organization will face is success. When the company is small, the founder will rely on his gut to make, or her gut to make all the major decisions. See, I was politically correct there. So
Good boy.
from marketing to product, from strategy to tactics, hiring and firing, the decisions the founder makes will, if he trusts his gut, feel right. But as the organization grows, as it becomes more successful, it becomes physically impossible for one person to make every major decision. Not only must others be trusted and relied upon to make big decisions, but those people will also start making hiring choices. And slowly but surely, as the megaphone grows, the clarity of why starts to dilute. So whereas the gut was the filter for the early decisions, rational cases and empirical data often serve as the sole basis for later decisions. And that's what he calls the split. They are no longer inspired by a cause greater than themselves. Anyone got any thoughts on that? Any examples that spring to mind? I'm just giving everyone else the opportunity to speak for a moment. So it's not all about me. Okay. While you're thinking about that, yeah, I think this was the next sentence, the next two sentences are great examples. They simply come to work, manage systems, and work to reach certain preset goals. There is no longer a cathedral to build. Do you remember in the earlier chapters?
Yes.
You ask a builder, I'm building a wall. I'm coming into work today to build a wall. No, I'm helping to build a cathedral. So
Yes.
is there that sense of the greater purpose? Or is it, like the tradie coming in just to do their one little job, their one part of the big project? Is that all they see, or do they see the bigger vision? So when we can inspire people that what you're trying to achieve is something bigger. And I think I used the example last week of Jan Carlson and his book, Moments of Truth. There you go. That's what it was called, Moments of Truth. So it was about how he turned an airline around by getting all the staff together and on the same page, by understanding what they were trying to achieve and really connecting with their why, that they were all on the same why, which was, we want to turn this airline around and make it the best the best airline in Europe for the small business traveler. They focused in, they zoomed in on what their target market was, what the problems had been, where they were letting the customer down. You know, planes were running late, baggage got lost, all that kind of thing. But they included every single staff member, from the pilots to the baggage handlers, whatever position they held, saying you can all make a difference. You're all part of the overall machine. You're all part of, you're a cog in it. You're just as important. It's no good the pilot's getting the plane there on time if half the baggage is missing. You know, it's no good, you know, one thing being right and another thing letting it down. So it was about getting everyone inspired to do that little bit better. And by doing that, by really communicating and getting everyone on board with that shared vision, he turned a company around from being a massive loss maker to the most profitable small business airline in Europe at the time, one of them. So it was a massive turnaround, and it's a book that's well worth reading. Just one example that springs to mind from that book. I know we're supposed to talk about this book, but it fits with Simon's why, and that is where a customer went to check in and realized that they'd left their passport at home. And whereas most airlines would have just gone, oh, well, sorry, too bad, you're going to miss the flight because you can't get on it without the passport. The check-in person thought quickly and said, is there anyone at home? Because he realized he wouldn't have time to go home, get the passport and come back. He was going to miss the flight. But the check-in person said, have you got anyone at home? Yes, there is. Could you tell them where the passport is, and could they get a taxi driver to bring it? So that way they only have to drive in one direction, not drive both ways. And that's exactly what they did. And the person got the passport delivered to the airport so they could check in and still get on their flight and make their business meeting. And that little thing was one of those great examples of where each individual employee felt empowered to think outside the box, to suggest things, to think in terms of how can we help the customer the best way, rather than just going, no, here's the rule. Rule says you can't get on the plane, don't have a passport, you can't go and get it and get back here in time, too bad. They tried to think, how can I help this customer get a solution? So when you can get everyone on the same page with a shared vision, that's when you can really achieve great things. That's the fundamental of this book for me, is that inspiring people with a shared vision of why you're doing what you're doing. So he talks about the split being when people are no longer inspired by the cause that's greater than themselves. Excuse me. And in a lot of cases, when the small business starts, it's the founder or the initial CEO or the person who's the leader who is giving that sense, that feeling of we're trying to achieve something here. And that's when it's easy, because you've got that person there around you, and you can sort of feel their enthusiasm, and it rubs off on people. So it's simply being around a charismatic founder allows that feeling of being a part of something special to flourish. But when that person leaves, or you become disconnected from them as the company grows, that's when it can easily start to become a bit fuzzy. As he said, Microsoft has experienced a split, but is not so far down the line that it can't be put back on track. There was a time not too long ago that people at Microsoft showed up at work every day to change the world. Interesting, eh? Imagine showing up at work every day to change the world. And they did. What Microsoft achieved, putting a PC on every desk, dramatically changed the way we live. But then their why went fuzzy. Few people at the company today are instructed to do everything they can to help people be more productive, so they can achieve their greatest potential. Instead, Microsoft became just a software company. So that's something they may turn that around again. But he's noticed that change in the loss of why. And he goes on to say, it's no accident that big companies talk about a return to basics. What they're alluding to is a time before the split, and they would be right. They do indeed need to return to a time when what they did was in perfect parallel to why they did it. Now, something that I always kept as my philosophy with the Backpacker Hostel, I go back to that, was my founding business, if you like, was that I conveyed to the staff on day one. I got everyone in for a meeting when we took over this business, and I said to them, I want to go back to basics. Why are we here? Is we want to create the best possible experience for our customers. We want them to love the fact that they stayed here because they had such a great time. The place was a rundown mess, and I said, we're not going to be able to change that overnight. We're going to, as money comes in, we'll decorate it, we'll fix it up, we'll improve the bathrooms, which are pretty scary. We'll do those things, but we can't do them overnight until we've got the cash flow. So how we're going to get that is we're going to make it, this is the best place where people look after you and the staff care about you, and you're going to have a fantastic time staying there. I said, in 5 years' time, people are not going to remember how good the curtains were or what the bedding was like. They're going to remember the people they met there and the great time they had. And that's what it became. It became the slogan was 5 stars for atmosphere. And that's what we created, as a situation where people felt part of something. And that's why so many of them are still in contact with each other all these years later. So having that strong sense of why brings everyone together in the team. If you're on your own, well, you bring yourself together. But you're never on your own, really, when you think about it, because you've got suppliers, you've got customers, you've got advisors, you've got your accountant, your lawyer, your marketing advisor, people that you go on training courses that teach you things, mentors, coaches. There's people all around you, even when you're on your own. It might just feel like you're on your own because you don't have any actual staff to start with. But you still have plenty of people in your circle. And so even they can be influenced by your sense of why, by your passion for what it is that you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. So he does go on to talk about what gets measured gets done. That old maxim of Peter Drucker, the great management guru, that you can't manage what you can't measure. So you do need the structure, as he says, but the structure is no good unless it has a purpose. So money, as he says, is a perfectly legitimate measurement of goods sold or services rendered, but it is no calculation of value. So when you asked people who stayed at my backpackers, it wasn't about what the room cost per night or how much things cost, or what the price of a beer was in the bar. It was about the experience that they'd had, about the people they'd met, about the fun things that we'd organized for them, beach trips and volleyball and barbecues and soccer matches and nights out where we all went out and got drunk together and all sorts of things like that. It was those sorts of events, crazy parties that we'd organize in our own bar. It was that was what people remembered. And the fact that we made everyone feel part of something. No one was sort of allowed to sit there being miserable on their own without someone approaching them and trying to, lift their spirits. So he goes on to talk about successions and how it's so important to manage if you're going to have a company or a business that's going to end up with somebody else taking it over from you. I'll just check on time how we're going here. We're coming up towards, got to speed up a bit. That it's important that you take people with you and you develop leaders behind you, because if you need a succession plan, you need someone who thinks and believes the same things that you do. Otherwise, if they don't have that continuity, if it hasn't been documented as to why we do what we do, why we exist, then that's going to get fuzzy if it's not clear, if you haven't included everyone in it and made sure that the people who are going to succeed you at some point, or if you're going to start delegating things to people, then your management structure needs to think the same way you do. Yep, just speeding through. He gave an example about Starbucks, which was a good one, about that they offered. I never sort of realized this was their intention, but his vision, Schultz had this vision of building a comfortable environment between work and home, the third space, as he called it. How cool is that? The third space. So it's the space between work and home, where you go for a coffee. So in the morning you go to get your coffee to start your day, or maybe in the evening you go to unwind or something. But it was about the experience, the idea that people bought, not the coffee. There was a time when Starbucks offered the option to sip your coffee out of a ceramic cup and eat your Danish off a ceramic plate. Two perfect details that help bring the company's belief to life in the place between work and home. But ceramic crockery is expensive to maintain, and Starbucks did away with it, favoring the more efficient paper cups. Though it saved money, it came at a cost, the erosion of trust. Nothing says to a customer, "We love you, now get out," like a paper cup. It was no longer about the third space. It had become about the coffee. The company's why was going fuzzy. I thought that was a great example, great little story.
Yeah.
Okay, so continuity of vision. So simply apply the Celery Test and see if what the company is saying and doing makes sense. Test whether what they are doing effectively proves why they were founded. If we can't easily assess a company's why simply from looking at their product, services, marketing, and public statements, then odds are high that they don't know what it is either. If they did, so would we. And there's a lot of businesses out there who don't really know why they exist or what it is they're trying to achieve. Went on to talk about Costco and how they rose massively because the said this, a Deutsche Bank analyst told Fortune magazine, Costco continues to be a company that is better at serving the club member and employee than the shareholder. Money is never a cause, it is always a result. And when people know why you do what you do, they are willing to give you credit for everything that could serve as proof of why. When they are unclear about your why, what you do has no context. Even though the things you do or decisions you make may be good, they won't make sense to others without a clear understanding of why. So I would suggest when you start looking at the businesses that you deal with, having read this and I've gone through this, think about, can you articulate their why? Can you understand why they're in business? Does it make sense to you? Does their advertising, their marketing reinforce that? There's an interesting challenge for the weeks ahead, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So the origins of a why, chapter 13. I'll speed through. Talks about Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. They imagined a world in which an individual had a voice. They imagined a time when an individual could successfully stand up to incumbent power. So everything they did was about challenging the status quo. They came up with a blue box. You remember that when they first came up with the idea that you could make phone calls without having to put money in the pay phone? I remember it happening at my backpackers, that somebody found out about it and started telling everyone. And I was annoyed because we used to actually make a commission off the phone calls. We had a pay phone in the dining room, and we used to make an income from that. And suddenly everyone was getting free phone calls. And it's like, oh, great. There's another thing we've lost, like another erosion of our potential profits, one of the add-ons. Because once one found out, they immediately told everyone else, hey, did you know you can get free phone calls? And they were phoning their family back home through the internet for free, which hadn't previously been possible. Now everyone uses free software like, you know, Zoom and Messenger and WhatsApp and Telegram, you name it. There's all these different things that you can use to communicate with people now. It's certainly a changed world. So I love this story. Apple redefined the online music market, where the previous operators in the music industry were trying to sue 13-year-olds for pirating their music and things like that. They just made music available to everyone. There's no difference between an Apple customer and an Apple employee. One believes in Apple's why and chooses to work for the company. The other believes in Apple's why and chooses to buy its products. Cool. Apple's why, they are so effective at it, they are able to clearly identify their own products simply by preceding the product name with the letter I. Aye, aye. So they are a company that champions the creative spirit of the individual, and their products, services, and marketing simply prove it. Very clear, isn't it? And this is where he says, finding why as a process of discovery, not invention. So you will discover your why as you realize what is it that you're really achieving? What is it, in what way are you serving your community? In what way are you making a difference? So every company, organization, or group with the ability to inspire starts with a person or small group of people who were inspired to do something bigger than themselves. Remaining completely in balance and authentic is the most difficult part. The vision is to have every person and every organization know their why and use it to benefit all that they do. And in chapter 14, the new competition, I thought this was very interesting. When you compete against everyone else, no one wants to help you. But when you compete against yourself, everyone wants to help you. He gave the example of this guy, Ben Coman, who is running a race, but he has cerebral palsy. So he's struggling through the race, and everyone else finishes the race in about 25 minutes, but it takes him more than 45 minutes. When he eventually crosses the finish line, he's in pain and he's exhausted. But after about 25 minutes, when everyone else is done with their race, they come back to run with Ben. He's the only runner who, when he falls, someone else will pick him up. The only runner who, when he finishes, has 100 people running behind him, because they go back to help him just because he's competing with himself. Just finishing, just being there, doing the race is a big achievement for him. And I've seen that. I've run City to Surf runs here, and I've seen people do that kind of thing. Go back and help someone who's struggling. Just alongside them, keep them inspired. So he talks about, why would someone want to do business with you rather than with the competition? Because the work we're doing now is better than the work we were doing 6 months ago. And the work we'll be doing 6 months from now will be better than the work we're doing today. Because we wake up every day with a sense of why we come to work. We come to work to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. Are we better than our competition? If you believe what we believe, and you believe that the things we do can help you, then we're better. If you don't believe what we believe, and you don't believe the things we can do will help you, then we're not better. Our goal is to find customers who believe what we believe and work together so that we can all succeed. Imagine if every organization started with why. So, leaders start with why we need to do things, and leaders inspire action. There you go.
In a nutshell.
Start with why.
No, a book actually, not a nutshell. Unless you've got a weird book that fits in a nutshell.
You are a rascal, Stan.
Yes, you are.
That's scallywag to you guys.
So, Yanni, are you able to speak? Are you with us? She may be driving, so we don't want to cause any accidents. Okay, so that actually concludes the book. Is anyone? You're driving.
I am driving, but yeah, but it all starts. Well, for me, it all started. Why I wanted to get to know myself, you know, and I think I just kind of wanted to just find my place in this world. And while reading and listening to this book, it all has to know. It comes down to knowing why you do every little things, work, who you surround yourself with, why you do in the afternoons, why you go home after work, why, you know, everything is, there's a reason why. Like they say, the point where you're at right now is from all the decisions you have made. And why you make the decisions? Because of your emotions and facts of your everyday life. So it got me thinking, you know, and actually just questioning everything that I'm doing. But at the same time, yeah, going with your emotions, but it's also important to know why you get triggered or why you feel that way in order for you to have a better fulfilled life. I kind of took it like that.
Yeah, for sure. And are you feeling you having a better or more fulfilling life now that as you started to expand your consciousness and read more of these kinds of books?
Yes, it actually, it kind of makes like, just like, it kind of makes me question a lot, everything. And actually the times where I feel down, just remembering why I'm doing things, I automatically elevate myself. You know, it's understanding why your core values and why you're doing things. Because some people say we're going through, as an entrepreneur, we're going through a roller coaster of emotions, you know, and when you're making the shift from just an employee to a business person or investor or any type of entrepreneur, like your old paradigm tries to pull the, like, questions you, you know, or the universe, those things that you to question if you're ready to give, you know, to make that change in your life, you know. And sometimes you're like, oh my God, like for me, just understanding why I keep doing this, I automatically pull myself back up, you know, and understanding that it's just a process, you know, not being attached to the outcome, but enjoying the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. It is about the journey. I mean, it's for all of us, we're never the finished article, you know. We can always, there's always room. We're human. There's always room for improvement. And just when we think we know it all, we realize we don't. The more we know, the more we think we know, the more we start to realize actually there's a lot we don't know.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for sticking with me through that book, and I hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. It's I love Simon's audio books and his YouTube presentations. He's very, very good, very easy to do.
Yeah, they're excellent. We'll have a wonderful time, and we'll see everybody in a few weeks.
You will indeed. All right, thanks guys. Have a great week wherever you are, and grab that book. I'll put it on the Facebook page, but it's The 5 Major Pieces to the Life Puzzle by Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, Rohn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Bye.